Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us a very special guest, Judson Wood. Judson is a host of a podcast, and we'll talk about that in just a second. He's a psychic, a medium, a shamanic healer, and he helps you discover the mystic within. He's the host of the Shamanic Chef podcast, which just launched yesterday. Right. It'll be a couple months ago for y'all when you're listening to this, but we're very excited about it. I've listened to some of it. It's just like, it's such an interesting way to connect these two seemingly disconnected pieces of our lives, but they really are a seamless connection. So welcome to the show, Judd. Judd, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So let's dive right into the connection between woo and food. Because that's what I took away from your podcast episode. You were talking about broken saliva. Do you want to, maybe you should tell your story. How did you get here to this point? I mean, did you just wake up one day and realize, oh, I'm psychic?
No, that's not how it worked for me. You know, I had lived through a lot of traumatic experiences, a lot of loss, suicide, all these different things. We all have a story like that in a sense. But what happened for me was I kept running from these aspects of myself tirelessly at times. And as I was working as a chef in Texas, running a restaurant group and overseeing a lot of pieces and parts, I had this moment of clarity. Well, I've had many moments of clarity, but I've had this moment of true clarity that I had to leave. I had to walk out on a very successful role as an executive chef, overseeing a lot of people to kind of find my way again. And I went into a lot of healing, deep energy clearing. I tried some things for the first time that I didn't understand. And I went to school. Actually, I went to SWIHA, Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, in 2018 as a road to discovery, you know. And as soon as I showed up, I'm like, I'm going to show all these people what I know. And that wasn't what happened. I was very humbled, and I learned a lot about my ego and my shadows and all these other things that we learn. But I also developed a way of kind of connecting, even at that time, the food and energy and all these things. And it took me several years in development and work on my business and seeing clients nonstop. I've been doing this for over 4 years, you know, direct one-on-one clients, energy healing, trauma work, all these different things. Love the past life side of it. But about a year ago, I had a big transition. I was living in Scottsdale, and I had been writing pages and pages of stuff that I had no clue what it was about, really, a theme of it. And it all came together slowly. And I woke up and I felt like there's a gift in this, you know, and I have a voice that needs to be heard in a sense. Not from an ego and arrogant place, a place of something needs to get out and something needs to share. And I know this is a long way to answer your question, but it all kind of pinpointed to, well, there's an aspect of my passion in food and cooking that I need to go back to because I walked away from it almost completely. And there's a connection to what I'm doing now in supporting other people. But what does it all mean, you know? And so I went through a lot of periods of activation, heart expansion, kundalini expansion. That was very trying at times. And Spirit said, I'm going to call you to go back into the restaurant. And we're going to move too. So here I am in Colorado now. I moved here in October to take a role, kind of a grunt role, uh, in the restaurant again. And what happened was along the experience, well, I saw aspects of myself that I'd want to see. And I also learned to kind of find that true passion that I had in connecting with food. You know, it always really came easy for me, and it was very hard for me to walk away, but I had so many beautiful experiences along the road. But it was like, now I want you to get your hands dirty. And the whole concept behind the shamanic chef has a lot to do with being in direct contact with food and energy and finding ceremony and knowing that in my own experience, I was swelling up, I was overweight, I was getting sick constantly. And I'm like, Spirit, something has to change. And now I want you to share it all. So that's kind of how it connected, you know. And you mentioned something about broken saliva, and I know I briefly touched on that in the podcast last night. And what I have learned as an experience is my inflammation, many of my clients' inflammation doesn't necessarily have to do with a lack of supplementation or lack of energy clearing. It has more to do in many ways of our own ability to break down certain foods and our own enzymatic reactions that just aren't happening very well. It
Mhm.
begins here, begins in the saliva. And obviously, there are other stressors that we're dealing with in life and other peripheral stressors. And we're looking down, we're scrolling, you know, all those play a role in who we are today. Even our postures have changed, you know, but the idea came about through a period of time, but it really became truly clear that it had to just come out. It had to breathe some air.
Yeah. And you've touched on so many things here. If we just look at food, and we're talking real food here, not like the processed chemicals that are passed off as food, there is a big difference. And as a chef, which is it's different than being a cook in that you you understand some of the more, well, you understand how to run a restaurant, which cooks generally don't. Um, you also get some training on how things work together to enhance our physical beings. And it's all around energy. And I one time heard that if you grow your own food, the the interaction between your energy and the food's energy as it's developing, it will develop in such a way to nourish your body specifically, which I
Mm,
think is so cool.
yeah.
But and we've all heard the stories about changing water. You can change the composition of water just by talking to it, which is, and praying over your food has interesting effects on the food itself.
Mm,
And when you're talking about cooking or preparing food with ceremony, ceremony infuses the action that you're taking. It infuses energy into whatever you're doing. So you can have ceremony for cutting carrots or onions or whatever you're doing. If you bring ceremony into it, then it's done with intention rather than just mindlessly working on it.
yeah.
Your thoughts about that?
You know, I did. And all along this time and this kind of recreation of this idea, I kind of went back to food again and reminded myself it helps me be more present. You know, it helps me kind of it involves all my senses. I'm hearing the sizzle, I'm smelling certain things. That sizzle is telling me something, that smell is telling me, oh, maybe I need to add. And so for me, it was a moment of clarity of I really was having a challenge being present in some of my own life and my own responsibilities and experiences. And this really brought me back to the moment of peace, involving myself in those moments where you lose kind of time.
Mhm.
You kind of lose time. You do if you allow yourself to be in the midst of that moment, that beautiful, perfect moment. Ceremony came along as I was studying shamanic practices, and it was kind of like an idea at that point. Well, what do I do with this from now on? How do I live life in ceremony? And then it became something that I would share with clients in a healing moment where the space became so much more powerful than anything Judd could do alone,
Mhm.
as an invitation. Um, and blessing food was more about giving thanks and gratitude for all the abundance. But I also learned from a mentor of mine that no matter what I eat, my energy and my voice can change that frequency.
Yes.
And I think that from what I see in the food industry and the farming industry, we're so afraid of all these pesticides. We're so afraid of all these things happening to our food supply, our food system. There's a lot of truth to it. Chemicals and other things are being dumped, and we don't know what's going on. We've lost kind of touch, and we've just relied it to be available. And that losing connection also is kind of a disassociation of the healing benefits of what food can do for us. you know and ceremony is a way to kind of reframe what the food can do for you. One is a belief, changing the belief to changing the verbiage around a blessing and inviting it to be healing. But also the shamanic chef idea was about combining certain ingredients in many different ways to cook food differently, to kind of combat a lot of the chemicals and other elements in our food that aren't
Mhm.
supportive for us. I could take chlorella or spirulina until I die, but it's not truly what is really needed as a detox. I
Mhm.
think that we use so much energy on trying to cleanse and detox that we're missing the point. It doesn't take 14 days to do a detox. It could take 3 years. It's a slow process. And so that's kind of part of the idea. It's not so much of an idea, it's like what I put myself through.
Mhm.
I am first and foremost a student and tried all these recipes and all these detoxes on my own because I was having so many issues. And I was kind of on a road to discovery where I have all this awareness that I support other people. Well, soul, I need your help here. I need direction on what's going to heal, cleanse, heal, and clear some of the trauma as well at the same time. Spirit, soul, I need you to show me how to adapt this for myself and for other people. Be clear about it, you know, not subtle this time. I was having all of these sensitivities that just started happening where I couldn't eat fruit. Everything was making me sick. I was having a histamine response.
Mhm.
And I knew it wasn't going to last. I knew there was something within me that could change it. I just didn't understand yet until it started happening. So,
It's interesting how our bodies will respond, and it's easy to just ignore the signals that you're getting, as it's just my body doing weird things because it always does weird things. But when your body is doing those weird things, it's trying to get your attention. So trying to get your mind's attention to get you to behave differently or to adjust something or to heal something. Because there's a lot of times when it's trauma in our lives that are causing these problems. And then we can't energetically interact with our food which is designed to nourish us and renew us, because we've got all these other things being blocked energetically in our bodies. I had somebody do the body code clearing on me, and I've seen it done on other people, and when they did it to me, it doesn't feel like anything's happening. But when you look back on it, it's like, okay, that's when this changed. I can tell that's when the change started to happen.
Mhm.
Some of these modalities are just like, people call them woo woo, and I jokingly call things woo, because I really think that woo is just science that hasn't been explained yet. It's magic. It's stuff we don't understand where we are. It doesn't mean that nobody understands it. It just means we don't understand it. It's like the magician. He knows how it all works, but the audience doesn't. And when it comes to things that are woo, like, shamanic healing or shamanic practices, or um, hypnotherapy, even, all those things are just, they're modalities that really do have an impact on you and how you feel and how you approach the world, that you might not think that they would, because you just don't understand how they work, but they do work.
And I think there's been times in my own practice where I doubted you know, I doubted that I was doing anything.
Mhm.
And I had to kind of reassess my own beliefs about certain things, because we can try and use all these modalities, but if we lose that combination of intention and belief, kind of muddies those waters of clearing and release. You
Mhm.
know, and I think it is a lot about intention and belief. It is working. And I've had a lot of clients come to me that doubt me and my gifts and test me. I've had a lot of testers, and I've had a lot of readings that have been so challenging, then traumatic, but I've learned that all of it that played a positive role in grounding into the truth that energy and the modalities that we have are so empowering and so quickly healing. I had a client come to me once, and I saw her for 2 months, and she was like, I have done so much more with you in this amount of time than 3 years of therapy. And the
Mhm.
power of what we do is we move things quicker. We hold beautiful, loving space. We nurture, we are really powerful.
Way powerful,
Yeah.
much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
Because wherever we are, emotionally, spiritually, physically, we created that. So I did that.
It's
You
okay to
did.
be proud, right?
Yeah. If you're living a crappy life, well, you can change that. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow, but you can start today. It's like those people that put up vision boards,
Right.
and they go to all the effort and a lot of intention to put it all together, and then they put it somewhere and they never look at it again for a while, and then they just let their brain go, and then they pull it out, maybe a year later, and they're like, oh, got that, got that, got that, got that.
Right.
It's the intentional part of it. If you focus power, yeah,
You
you used to say.
what I've learned a lot lately in kind of developing a way to work with shadows and clients, it's like that's what I've been doing all along, but now it just has more of a defining point to it all, that
Mhm.
most people don't even know their beliefs.
Yeah.
Most people don't know their value system. And that's a lot of the reason why we don't get what we want in some ways, And so we kind of reassess and ground into where they are today. And even in my own life, I realized that my beliefs weren't always helpful.
Mhm.
Even today, I had a session with a coach that unearthed some beliefs that I didn't even realize I had. having to do with past stuff, addiction, trauma, whatever it was, I was still connected to that person, you know. And it's empowering to hear those things, but it can be disempowering to see that you're still running from a place of old wounds, you know. But my word for the year is grace and acceptance and surrender and all those words that really combine very well and kind of letting go of the attachments and anchors of what keep us stuck.
I love this year that so many people, and maybe people have done this all along, but this year I was really aware of the words people were choosing.
Mhm.
My word for this year is peace.
Mm.
But if you have a word for the year or a feeling that you want to just like, this is the feeling I want to embody this year, like yours, um, it makes it easier to decide whether you're going to do things or not. The decisions that you're going to make, you can run them through that filter. Is this going to make me feel the way that I want to feel?
Mm.
And if it's no, then you know, you have a right to just not do it.
Right.
I think people have lost track of the idea of no is a perfectly fine answer. It's when you wander into the maybe that you lack clarity.
Mm.
And when you lack clarity, it makes it hard to move forward.
It does. It kind of keeps you stuck when you're not willing to make a choice either,
Mhm.
you know.
And it can be no for now, even if you want to think about it, it's no for now.
It's funny that you say that because I was just thinking that sometimes you hear a yes or a no, but lately I've been hearing, well, just not now. It's coming, just not now. You know, I feel like we're so impatient that we miss the opportunity of enjoying the moment.
Mhm.
And we want just what we want right now. And there's always a better coming.
We always want the next thing instead of just enjoying the thing that we already have.
But what if I don't like this thing that I already have? You know what I mean? All those kind of things come through.
Yeah, and I can see that a lot of times that does happen, but we can just learn to find appreciation and value in what exists at the moment. It
Mm.
can be totally horrible, but there's going to be something that you can look to and say, but there's this, and just focus on that small dot of this is good. Like I used to, when we were going through the pandemic, and I was thinking that the world was coming apart, coming off the rails. I mean, that's really the reason I started the podcast, was because I was in such a bad place
Mm.
about where society in general was going. And I would just say, all these horrible things are happening, but today is good. I'm alive. I have my family. I have all of these things that I can appreciate and enjoy. So today is good. I'm not going to worry about all that other stuff. And I was able to really embrace enjoying where I was in life, even though all of the other stuff was going on. And the more that I did that, and the more that I saw coaches coming along, trying to hold that space for other people, the more I realized these people, their voices need to be heard. And that's why I started the podcast.
Mm.
But it was all about taking the moment, the now, and appreciating just what we're experiencing in the moment.
Well, isn't that what alchemy is?
Yes.
Yeah.
And thus was
Changing,
born the Alchemist.
yeah. It's magic. It's creating magic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And embracing the magic that exists all around us all the time. We are conjurers. We create things, good things and bad things. We're always creating.
Right.
It's just the energy that we are. We're we are just energy. In our bodies aren't even real. It's just like you get down to it. And when you eat, you incorporate food in there, you're just you're pulling energy from other sources into the energy that is your existence on this plane, and it interacts in a certain way. And you were talking about the broken saliva, and I think that's why that phrase just hit me so hard. It's like there's something that does happen where we stop being able to process things the way that we were designed to be able to exchange energies, because it's all just a chemical process, a chemical and electrical process. Even our emotions are a chemical process.
Right. Yes. Were you going to say something?
I was waiting for you.
Well, and I know when I talk about the saliva being broken, that's kind of an affect of our environment. The stress, our inability to slow down and really eat slowly. At the beginning, that's kind of the root and the foundation of what I wasn't doing was not slowing down. And I was chewing food quickly, I was chewing gum and doing all these things. And granted, mind you, that's not the real root of it all. That was only a part of the whole. There were emotions, there were imbalances, there were nervous system struggles. You know, Lately I've had a lot of individual people come to me and talk a lot about their weight gain. And I would share, well, this is why. No, it can't be that. No. Well, one, we are having a nationwide hormonal issue, problems. Stress is rampant, but we don't see it as stress, but because we have grown accustomed to thinking we've adapted to it, which we haven't fully adapted to all the information, all the processes and processes that are going on around us, and not being able to slow down and eat, considering all the other stressors that are combating our system. And it doesn't happen all the time, but this is a lot of what I recognized is we aren't fully allowing ourselves to enjoy or process one, and we are fighting aspects of our emotions and blaming other people for what's going on. All of those things. And during COVID, at the beginning of COVID is when I started my practice. And it was I laugh about it because it was kind of a weird kind of situation to create a really healing business, but it just took off. But it allowed me to kind of understand what people really are going through, what they are needing, you know. And spirit will always guide us and call us to listen intently and deeper. But what I had felt along this process were people lost touch with who they are. People lose touch with how their food is prepared. When I was a kid, I went hunting several times, and it wasn't always the most enjoyable experience, but what I did enjoy was I was utilizing something of earth. I had a client recently ask me, should I feel guilty for eating meat? And there's so many things attached to that. That's your choice to feel those things too. But what's the real road, or what's the root of all of this feeling that you're feeling around meat? Maybe it has to do with losing connection to seeing how our food is prepared for us. And so ceremony invites that in to say, I want to be a part of the blessing. I want to be a part of the kill. I want to be part of the preparation because I choose to kind of welcome a higher frequency now.
I have butchered animals in my life. I lived on a homestead and I grew a lot of my own food and I harvested animals, and I don't eat that much meat anymore. I mean, we grew our own cow and butchered him. But it's, I think if people process their own meat, they'd eat far less of it. People don't really understand how food is prepared very much anymore. There's so many things that you can eat that exist in your yard Like the summer at my house, we have lots of what people would call weeds, but most of them are edible.
Mm.
This is what we should be eating. It grows in our environment. If it grows in our environment, it means that's what we should be eating because that's where you live. But being being more involved in the process of preparing your food and growing your food and harvesting your food, it and incorporating ceremony into it, there's just like there's it tastes better. I just put it that way. when, when you cook stuff that you've prepared and you've learned how to you've just learned how to incorporate that part of the whole food, acquiring food rather than just going to the grocery store. It enriches your life in a lot of ways.
And that's beautiful. As a reminder, at the beginning, you said about altering your food. We're talking about saying and be
Mhm,
blessing, foods like that.
mhm,
A lot of what ceremony is in health and wellness is being more present,
mhm,
you know. And when we cook, I grew up with a long line of grandmothers that had a lot of recipes, but I didn't necessarily see all of what they were doing. But I had one grandmother where she showed me exactly what she did to prepare food. She killed a duck in front of me. She did other things. And it was hard for me to see some of these things being such a young man, but it taught me that that was all ceremony too.
mhm.
You know, there wasn't a moment in that experience that wasn't helpful to bring me where I am today. And as I recognize it, it was very empowering to see that even though it was a death, it was a blessing at the same time.
I blessed my animals after I killed them and thanked them.
You know,
That was just part of my ritual when I would butcher animals. It, and I've come to the point where I don't eat very much meat. It doesn't taste right to me anymore. And I think my taste buds have changed over the years. You know, I don't know. It's interesting.
well,
Sorry.
I know as we heal, we wake up aspects of
Mm,
ourselves plural, aspects of our past lives that are very present in our experience.
mm,
I've had a lot of past lives that reminded me that I can do other things. Other people have as well. We have other intuitive energies that support us, but our taste buds, while we're opening up and awakening and feeling all these symptoms of expansion,
mhm,
our taste buds are very much waking up too. We're in a need to allow ourselves better, healthier foods. And that doesn't always mean a raw food diet. It really
mhm,
doesn't. It means something that's chemically balanced to where we are today. I don't eat nearly as much red meat as I used to, but when I do, it's important. you
mhm.
know I'm needing the iron, or I'm needing something that's grass-fed and local, or I'm needing a fatty ribeye because that's what my cravings are you
Mhm.
know and I've seen it a lot lately where we get into a stuck regimen of eating the same damn thing over and over and over again, which also causes issues with allergens, imbalances, and issues with stress in the body. Our body doesn't want the same thing over and over again. But I want to be fit. I want to be lean. I want to look like this. We're missing the point, really. We're
Mhm.
trying to still, even I've done this where I'm reaching for something that's going to make me feel better. But really, I need more nurture and self compassion. Need to accept things for what they are, and I need to enjoy life and experience instead of be so hard and rigid. And I'll
Yeah,
stop.
and the I'm never going to eat this again thing.
Right. What's the point
That's
in shaming ourselves for eating certain things instead of enjoying it? Maybe my child, maybe my inner child, my inner boy needs this. because it will bring me back into a place that is healthy for me and
Mhm.
healing, you know.
And oftentimes when you're eating something that maybe you shouldn't eat,
Mm.
if you eat it without guilt, it's not going to nearly do as much damage to your body as if you eat it while feeling guilty about it,
Yeah.
because you're releasing all those stress hormones that are just immediately turning it to fat because your body is like in fight or flight mode. And we're so used to being in that mode all the time that it's we don't recognize that we're causing more problems for ourselves.
Mm. You know, it's funny. I have a funny story. I stopped eating almonds a while back because
Mhm.
I was having a real allergic reaction to them. Just, I don't know if it was out of the blue. I just noticed it got more severe.
Mhm.
And in the past like 6 months, I've been doing this detox and clearing and emotional work too, and shadow work, all those things, but really a direct look at what my beliefs are around certain foods, pizza, this and that, and how I was responding, how my body was responding. And I said, well, this isn't working for me, Judd. I'm not losing any weight. I've changed all these things. So how about we just change our outlook on my perspective? So I've been buying these supplements and these protein bars just for convenience on certain days.
Mhm.
I looked down yesterday and I was like, they're full of almonds. And I didn't realize all of the change and all of the change in belief and the detox and changing of the saliva really allowed me to process certain foods I was allergic to for years. And it's changed the whole makeup. You know, it wasn't just one supplement, it was learning to see things a little bit differently in the forefront, you know, and then doing some minor detoxes, cleansing of the blood, adrenal work that actually really changed my ability to break down certain things. You know, as I said, I couldn't eat fruits. I stopped eating berries. I mean, I love berries, and now it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't affect me. My next step is wheat and gluten and all those different things. You know, I think it takes steps to get to a new way of believing.
Mhm.
It does.
And and not just I can see where wheat can be a problem for people, but I think part of it is that we're just so used to the convenience of going to the store and buying wheat products there rather than taking the little bit of extra time and doing it yourself. I make bread. I make artisan bread. And I'll tell you, my bread is better than you can buy in any store in the United States.
Mhm.
I'm just that good. And
I've seen it.
humble. Yeah, I'm so humble.
It's funny. I just bought a book on pizza dough baking from starters and doing things like
Mhm.
that. As you probably know, fermenting foods makes it better in many ways,
Mhm.
especially flour.
Yeah. Well, I've had my starter for several years now, maybe like 6 or 7,
Mhm.
where his name is Fred.
I was just going to ask you.
I did name him. And I used to have a ginger bug. So I had Fred and Ginger on the counter. So yeah, I'm like that. But I know it doesn't take very long. Once you know how to do it, it's
It's
I'm
not
in at it.
complicated.
It's not complicated, and you know what it's supposed to feel like, and it's really, for me, I have a 3-2-1 recipe because around here where I live, it works. It works every time, but you have to have the right flour. Flour makes a big difference.
Yeah.
The kind of flour when you're making bread. All these things that I learned over the years. But yeah, I just dump it all in the bowl and stir it together and then wait an hour. Then I'll walk back by and fold it under a few times and go away.
Mm.
And it usually takes me most of the day for it to develop the way it needs to develop, but then I just bake it, and it has the open crumb that I craved so much, and the ears like really cool,
Yeah.
and it makes me feel good because this is one of those things that I tried for so many years to learn how to bake a really nice loaf of bread because I like bread.
Mm. I think I know one of the things that we need is community right now.
Mhm.
And food is that balance into community. You know, I feel like we've lost a lot of connection with community through, the COVID and all that period, and we're still kind of coming back into it. But it's always been there as a support to bring us together. And I think that it plays a big role in healing community, world, and things like that. As a role in taking back our power connected with food helps us to really feel more balanced, present, healthy, as well as friendlier in a sense,
Mhm.
does.
It does. And sitting down to a meal with your family or and your friends, there's just like something magical that happens, whether it's at home or in a restaurant. Just
Yeah.
being in community. So Judd, how can people get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing and listen to
Um,
your podcast?
well, I just started my podcast yesterday and it's on Spotify. I will be slowly creating a video podcast for that as well on YouTube, and we'll see how that kind of flows. And so you can find me and just search the Shamanic Chef on Spotify. I also have a website where I do energy healing, shamanic work. I see clients, several days a week. Um, and, I do intuitive readings, all that. And you can find me on my webpage at www.judsontwood.com.
Awesome. So what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from this conversation? We've covered so much.
We have. I think one piece that I wanted to remind everyone is there is so much knowledge within. I'm only here to help unearth some of that awareness and not tell you that there's one thing everyone needs to do to heal and feel better. We're unique. We are very unique, and that's empowering to know as well. And I'm here to be a guide into the hearts, into the experience, to understand more of the truth of who we are.
I love that. Thanks so much for joining me.
No problem. Thanks you, Jill, for having me on.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.